There are now fears of a military buildup as China secretly leases an entire island in the Solomons. The Asia Times has reported here that the government of the Solomon Islands has reached a secretive deal with a Chinese company with close ties to the Communist Party, that it grants it exclusive rights to develop Tulagi, once the seat of British colonial rule in the Pacific region. It says the confidential arrangement has alarmed residents and raised fears that Beijing could be planning to use the tiny territory for future military rather than just commercial purposes. Now, this Tulagi Island was once a strategic outpost for Imperial Japan, and of course the United States fought Japan and took over that island in a fierce battle. Now, it says here that Beijing seeks to expand its influence in the Indo-Pacific region while undermining the U.S. and its allies' strategy there. So that is the whole purpose. And they signed this agreement for a 75-year lease. And it says here that it shares both civilian and military uses. And of course, it says U.S. officials who see the island chains in the South Pacific as crucial to protecting important sea routes. Of course, the Bible talks about Israel having the possession of the gates of their enemies, and these are one of the gates of strategic trade routes between the United States and Australia and New Zealand, and they're saying that now Beijing could disrupt all of that, as it did back in World War II with Imperial Japan. Now, it says here that the agreement has its potential for dual use, as a Chinese military base is certain to raise concerns with the United States and Australia. Australia and New Zealand says the fear that Beijing's ultimate aim is to set up a naval base in the Pacific, which would dramatically increase its military footprint in the area. Such a move would potentially negate the geographic remoteness that provides Australia and New Zealand with a valuable defense buffer. So now they feel that they are under threat by the military, by the Chinese military, if they were to establish a naval base in that particular island, which of course has a deep water. It has a deep water harbor, and it's of course very, very strategic. Japan knew it, the Chinese know it, and now the Chinese want to purchase that island for economic but as well as military uses. Now, we have been saying for years now in Ezekiel the 38th chapter that Gog, who is China, is going to attack the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, as it says here in Ezekiel the 38th chapter, verse 7. It says, "Be thou prepared, and prepare that for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto you." It's a NATO of the East, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. "And you shall be a guard unto them." God says that China will be the leader of this huge assembly. It says, "After many days you shall be visited. In the latter years you shall come into the land," or the nation, "that is brought back from the sword and is gathered out of many people." E pluribus unum, out of many we are one. That's the land, the United States. "Against the mountains," now mountains is always a symbol of governments in the Bible, and it's mountains plural. "The mountains of Israel," a nation and a company of nations, the company of nations of Ephraim. "Against the mountains," or the nations of Israel, which have been always waste, but is brought forth out of nations, they shall dwell safely, even all of them. And it says, "You shall ascend and come like a storm. You shall be like the cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands and many people with you." It is prophesied that China, with a huge assembly of nations, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, will attack the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And now the Chinese have taken one more strategic step to set up a naval base in the Solomons, and Australia and New Zealand feel under threat by this move. For the BICOG Media, this is Peter Salemi.